I was in this old cathedral a while back, and I had this weird moment.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone was looking up at the saints, the stories in the stained glass. But I just got lost in the grid lines, holding it all together, the shapes themselves. It felt like the light itself was well structured.
That is such a distinct experience. The color pulls you in, but what your brain is actually latching onto is the geometry.
And that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're looking at sacred geometry in Romanesque stained glass.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the 10th to the 12th centuries here.
It's a fascinating period. I mean, these medieval artisans, they weren't writing math textbooks.
Right.
But if you actually look at the windows, they're encoding this rigorous geometry, circles, grids, all this symmetry right into the walls of the church.
So let's unpack this hidden code. When I think of stained glass, my mind immediately goes to those huge, towering Gothic windows. Is that what we're talking about?
Not quite, and that distinction is really, really vital. We're talking about the Romanesque period, which comes just before Gothic.
Yep.
The walls were just massive because they had to hold up the roof, and that meant the windows were fewer and they were smaller. They had to be so efficient with the space they had.
So how do you maximize that without it just looking cluttered?
They leaned into intense geometric rigor. The key concept here is the medallion window.
The medallion.
Yeah, just picture a glazier on a scaffold in, say, 1100 AD. He doesn't have a calculator. He has a rope and a nail.
That's it.
The circle isn't just a pretty shape. It's the only shape you can draw perfectly with basically zero math skills. You just spin a rope around a fixed point.
So that physical constraint basically dictated the art.
Exactly. You see these windows made of stacked circles or medallions, and they frame all the narrative scenes.
It makes so much sense. The tool really defined the style.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just circles. I always see that almond shape, usually around Christ or the Virgin Mary. Is that just a stylistic thing?
That is actually a super rigorous geometric construct. It's called the Vesica Piscis.
Vesica Piscis.
It's what you get when two circles of the same size overlap. So the center of one is on the edge of the other. Symbolically, it's the intersection of two worlds.
The divine and the human.
You got it. It's geometry doing the heavy lifting for theology.
Wow. And they weren't just eyeballing these intersections, I assume?
No. They used cartoons, but not the funny kind. These were giant, full-scale layouts painted right onto whitewashed tables or even the floor.
So they were literally walking on the blueprints.
Literally walking on them while cutting the glass. And they used simple, clean integer ratios like 1:2 or 2:3.
It's just amazing how they use such basic tools to build such complex systems. It reminds me that today we have the opposite problem.
How so?
We have these incredibly complex tools like AI, but we need to figure out how to draft the future with them. And that actually brings me to our sponsor, Embersilk.
Right. If you're looking to figure out where AI agents could make the biggest impact for your business, or even just for you personally, you should check them out.
Absolutely. For AI training, automation, software development, Embersilk is the place to go. You can find them at embersilk.com.
So back to the glass.
Right, back to the glass. Here's the paradox for me. They want to let in this divine light, but to do that, you have to punch a hole in a stone wall that weighs thousands of tons. How did the glass not just buckle?
That brings us to the engineering. Glass is heavy, and it's brittle.
Uh-huh.
The geometry wasn't just for looks, it was structural.
Mm-hmm.
You have these lead strips, the cames, and then iron saddle bars that form a skeleton.
The skeleton.
It distributes the weight, and just as important, it resists the wind.
So the art is also a machine for keeping the window from collapsing.
Precisely. You should look at the Siena Cathedral Oculus. Some people call it the first modern window.
Why is that?
Because it used a metal grid to create these petals, which turned the whole window into a modular system.
Wow.
By organizing light through geometry, through order and symmetry, they were literally translating divine light into a language our eyes could understand.
And it was a universal language, right? I was
Yep.
reading about the main glazier of Gotland up in the Baltic.
Yes. A perfect example. His work, when you analyze it, wasn't just copying patterns. He was strictly adhering to a specific harmonic ratio. It suggests he was less an artist and more a mathematician in disguise.
And that math traveled. French craftsmen, German glaziers, they were building this network of light all across the continent.
It really was a shared European language of order.
So what's the takeaway for us today, sitting here?
Well, I think it invites us to look at these windows as a kind of visual music. You know how harmonic ratios in music, like 2 to 1 or 3 to 2, create these beautiful chords?
Right, the fundamentals of harmony.
These windows are using the exact same ratios. They are, in essence, frozen hymns made of light and math.
It makes you wonder, if we built our modern skyscrapers with that same level of intention, treating every beam and window as a note in a hymn, would our cities feel different? Something to think about.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, please subscribe to the show. Hey, leave us a 5-star review if you can. It really does help get the word out. Thanks for tuning in.